Good evening. Thanks for coming. It is 5:04, 5:03. The Board of Trustees of LaPorte Independent School District is now convened. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present. Every student's success is our number one priority. Sit down. This thing is long. As the LaPorte ISD Board of Trustees, we're here to set goals, adopt policy, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and communicate the district's vision and success to the community. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. School board meetings are open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. Audience participation is limited to the patron presentation portion of the meeting. Board members may not respond to the public comments section. These proceedings may be recorded, and I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking. Thank you for taking time this evening to join us and for your interest in the LaPorte Independent School District. At this time, we will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. I think we'll have an invocation by Mr. Yonda.
Will you bow your heads, please? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for your love and compassion as we gather here today. We humbly ask for your blessing for our teachers, administrators, staff, and students as they face one of the most challenging school years in their career. For our board, including our new trustees, as we take up matters before us, while forging new relationships and repairing old ones. May you strengthen our confidence and resolve to work together for the good of all. Please bless this meeting today, all those who are present, as well as all the lives of those who will be impacted by our decisions today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I failed to mention that we do have a quorum. We have Ms. Wheeler, we have Ms. Green, Ms. Thompson, and Mr. Yonda. So we do have a quorum present. Have a seat. Please. The board will now hear those who wish to make comments and who have completed and returned the public comment participation request. This section will be conducted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act and board policy. Complaints and concerns for which other resolution channels are provided shall be directed through those channels. Ms. Green?
No, sir.
Nothing. And Ms. Oliveris, there was nothing? Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move to item 4 on the agenda, canvassing of trustee election. You still have to listen to me. It's time to canvass the election returns. The time is now 5:07 p.m. A tabulation of the votes cast has been prepared, and the results of the November 3rd, 2020 General Trustee election will be read into the record. The results are the sum of early and election day voting for each candidate. Position 1, the candidates were Lois Rogerson and Russell Shoppy. Ms. Rogerson had 6,414 votes. Mr. Shoppy had 8,614 votes. Position 2, Ms. Kathy Green and Mr. Mason Paris. Ms. Green had 9,718 votes. Mr. Paris had 5,378. Position 3, Chris Murdoch and Dennis Slate. Mr. Murdoch had 8,977 votes. Mr. Slate had 5,555 votes. So the results of the election have been read into the record. Is there a motion to accept the results of the election held on November 3, 2020?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Thompson and Mr. Yonda. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? Okay, we'll call for the vote. We'll do the verbal vote again. Ms. Wheeler, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a yes. Okay, thank you. Ms. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Yonda?
Yes.
And a yes from me, so it is unanimous. Thank you, Board. Let the record reflect that the canvass results for the November 3, 2020 General Trustee election have been approved and are official. Ms. Green, Mr. Shoppy, and Mr. Murdoch will now step to the die for signing of officer's statement and oath of office.
It's done.
Okay, you've already signed, right? But we can do the oath. Thank you.
You'll just tell me where to stay.
Please raise your right hand and state the following. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of school board trustee
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of school board trustee
for the LaPorte Independent School District of the state of Texas,
for the LaPorte Independent School District for the state of Texas,
and will do the best of my ability
and will do the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States and of the state.
the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
That's what I said.
Okay. No, y'all can leave now. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, I'm going to eat.
Would you like to join us at the dine now?
Yep, have your seat. Certificates of election have been prepared for each candidate elected to office, and a report of the precinct returns will be delivered to the Secretary of State as required by law at the conclusion of this meeting. So, go to the next page. Or okay. Ms. Oliveris, thank you for keeping me so organized up here. Appreciate that. At this time, the board will now reorganize by electing a president, vice president, and secretary. In order to conduct the election, Superintendent Dr. Walter Jackson will serve as president pro tem, as posted on the agenda, to serve during the reorganization of the board and election of officers. Dr. Jackson, as President Pro Tem, I now pass the meeting to you to oversee the reorganization of the board and conduct the election of board president.
Thank you, Mr. President. Board members, as President Pro Tem, it is my responsibility to oversee the reorganization of the board and to conduct the election of the board president. At this time, I ask the board for consent to use the roll call election method. And so I'll just basically call your names out, okay? In the method, the board will be called upon one at a time to announce the nominee of their choice, or if there's one or more nominees for an office, and a majority of the votes are not cast for any one candidate, voting will continue until one nominee receives a majority vote. All in favor of utilizing the roll call election method based on what I just talked about, just let me know if you're okay with that. Are y'all okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Ms. Wheeler, are you okay with that? Okay, we're okay.
Okay. We will begin with the position of board president. Members' nominations are now in order for the president of the board. And I have one that Ms. Wheeler just sent to my email that says, Mr. Chairman, I, Charles C. Wheeler, would like to nominate Lee Wallace for president, David Yonda as vice president, and Deanne Thompson as secretary. And this is from Ms. Charles C. Wheeler. Is that correct, Ms. Wheeler? Thank you. Okay. Other nominations?
I would like to nominate David Yonda for president.
Okay. Okay. Any other nominations?
I'd like to nominate Deanne for vice president and Lee Wallace for secretary.
Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, so Mr. Lee Wallace has been nominated for the office of president. Also, Mr. David Yonda has been nominated for the office of president. Are there any other nominations for president? We'll start with that. Okay. It appears that there are no further nominations. I will now call upon each board member one at a time to announce the nominee of their choice so that we can have it for the record. And we will start with Ms. Wheeler since she's on electronic right now. Ms. Wheeler? Ms. Wheeler says her vote is for Lee Wallace. Okay. Mr. Shoppy?
David Yonda.
Lee Wallace.
Ms. Green? Okay. Y'all gonna help me. I don't think can you vote for yourself?
Sure.
Mr. Wallace.
That Wallace guy.
Okay, that Wallace guy. Ms. Thompson?
David Young. David Yonda.
Okay, and Mr. Young.
And that check guy.
That check guy.
I want to on the record say I want my name pulled from the secretary. I don't want that position, so. but
Okay.
Now.
Okay, all right. So, Ms. Oliveris, you're keeping notes of that, and our secretary, are you keeping note of that? Okay, can you give me the count for that, please? For Mr. Wallace and then Mr. Yonda?
We have 3 votes for Mr. Wallace and 4 votes for Mr. Yonda.
Okay. Okay.
I have the same thing.
Okay. Well, I think congratulations are in order for Mr. David Yonda, board president.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move to the next session. We had a nomination for secretary.
Doesn't he conduct it?
Yes, you can come on up now. Okay. Well, that was the quickest I've ever been fired right there, huh? Just, all right, so I will turn it over to you for secretary,
That's all right.
secretary, and then.
I guess, do I need to
Yes,
read off?
I'll
or-
let you. Okay.
Okay. Okay, and the nominations for, secretary, or we gotta do vice president first?
Well, you can do vice
Okay,
president. Either one.
okay, and so, we had, Deanne Thompson nominated for vice president. And are there any other nominations for the office of vice president?
I nominate Ms. Green.
Okay. Are there any further nominations for vice president? Okay, if not, nominations are now closed. I will now call upon each board member one at a time to announce the nominee of their choice. Ms. Wheeler, who is your choice for vice president? Ms. Green, okay. Ms. Thompson? I'm sorry, Mr. Shoppy, I'm sorry.
Ms. Thompson.
Ms. Thompson, okay. And Ms. Thompson? Okay. Mr. Wallace?
Skip Ms. Green.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Green. Thank you. Mr. Wallace?
Ms. Green?
Okay. And Mr. Murdoch?
Ms. Thompson.
Ms. Thompson? Okay. And I'll vote for Ms. Thompson. And so I have a record of 4-3, Ms. Thompson, for vice president. Okay.
I'm still kind of secretary right now, so.
Okay.
But yes.
And then Ms. Oliveris, is it we got? Okay. Okay. And congratulations, Ms. Thompson. And so we will continue with the position of board secretary. Board members' nominations now in order for the office of secretary. I believe Ms. Chauncey Wheeler had nominated. Okay, so that kind of, okay, so I'm going to, are there any other nominations for the office of secretary?
Right now, we have none, correct?
You're right,
Because of
Yeah.
the
right,
Okay, I will nominate Russell Shoppy.
okay. Okay, are there any other nominations for the office of secretary?
I nominate Ms. Green.
Okay, Ms. Green?
And I'd like to say, in all due respect to Mr. Shoppy, do we generally elect someone, a brand-new trustee, to a position that they're not familiar with, that they don't have, they really don't know what they're doing with? I mean, no offense.
No offense taken. None taken.
It's a
That has not been the,
well-oiled machine.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's been,
Yeah,
And I will tell you this, I will happily decline the nomination for Kathy to take Ms. Green to take it.
I appreciate that.
okay,
Ms. Green?
okay. Okay, Ms.
Can't tell if you're smiling
Okay,
or frowning.
okay. Since Ms. Green is the only nomination, I've concluded that nominations are now closed, and so congratulations, Ms. Green. Okay. And so I guess now we go to the action and discussion items. Item 7A, discuss proposed HB3 board outcome goals. Here you go. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome, Mr. Shoppy. Welcome, Mr. Murdoch. Last month, I shared with the board our proposed board goals, HB3, and this evening I would like to share with you the next development stage of the process. As a review, we developed Board Goal 1, which deals with early childhood literacy. And we are proposing to increase the percentage of third grade students that meets grade level or higher on the STAR reading. 53% is where our third graders performed on the 2019 STAR. We didn't have STAR last year, so our baseline for early childhood literacy and our early childhood math is coming from the 2019 STAR test. We are proposing to reach 65% by 2025. And just as a a point. Meets grade level is not just passing, it is the next higher performance level.
Dr. Wallace, can I interrupt
Yes.
you just real quick?
Certainly.
For the sake of our two new trustees, can you
Yes, sir.
explain where we are? We're talking about House Bill 3 and
Yes.
just briefly,
Okay,
real quick.
so,
So they'll know where we are.
Sure. House Bill 3 was a huge bill that came out of the last legislative session. There were many charges for school districts, and one of them for board goals is for the board in collaboration with the district and with the campuses to develop 5-year goals for early childhood literacy, which would be reading, early childhood mathematics, and college career military readiness, CCMR, which is a high school annual graduates measure. So when we were looking at the Goal 1 and Goal 2 for the early childhood literacy and mathematics, we were setting our goal at, and this was recommended by TEA, at the meets grade level. So when a student takes STAR, if they pass at approaches. The next highest level of achievement is called meets, and then the very highest level is called masters. So we looked at where our students performed at the meets in 2019, no STAR last year because of COVID, and we looked at 65% because there is a state, it's called 60 by 30 plan, but in essence, what they are saying is that they want all third graders to be performing at the 60% meets by, I think it's 2030, I'm not sure, I didn't have that one with me. But also we were looking at what the state level was for meets, for STAR, and so that's why we have selected 65%.
Right next to me.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Alrighty, so the second goal, to increase the percentage of third grade students scoring at meets grade level on STAR Math from 50 to 65%. And then the third goal, that we will increase our percentage of graduates that are college, career, and military ready from 57% to 75%. So then what we did was, we knew we were starting at 53, going to 65, 50 to 65, 57 to 75. So last meeting, we stepped out those targets for 5 years with kind of, and I don't have that with me tonight either, but I can share that with you. I can give you the prior presentation. It's fairly equally stepped out across the 5 years. The next thing that we did was we developed progress measures for each district goal. And we worked with our elementary and our high school campuses to help them develop their campus plans based on their own data. But tonight, we're looking just at the district progress measures and professional development plans. But you will get the entire district and campus plans for the next board meeting, for the December board meeting. Okay, so looking at early literacy progress measures. The percent of pre-kindergarten students that score on track in phonemic awareness on the Circle progress measure, that it will increase from 87.7% to 92%. And I'm just going to read through these, and then I'm going to circle back and give you a little more information. The percent of kindergarten students that score on track on the literacy screener on the Texas Kindergarten Entry Assessment, the Texas KIA, and that it will increase from 83.6 to 88% by 2025. And then we have a combined percent of first and second graders that score developed in word reading on the Texas Primary Reading inventory, the TPRI, and that it will increase from 47.4 to 52. What I will tell you about these instruments is that they are new. They are new assessments on the commissioner's approved list. Last year, we piloted the Texas Kia. Years ago, we did the TPRI, but because these are new instruments, because we were not able to administer last spring, what we have done is we have taken the fall scores from this fall to use as our baseline. And we have, we wanted to keep the target simple right now until we get through this school year. When we get to the end of the year and we look at our data, if we need to come back in and if we need to tweak these targets, because as you can see, they're just in single percentage points intervals. But we have some students that have taken the circle progress measure for the first time. Some of them may have had to have taken it virtually. We have all kindergarten students taking the Texas Kia really for the first time. They did a little bit of it last year. And then, of course, the TPRI is just a new assessment in general. So, again, what we'll do at the end of the year when we've administered the end of the year assessments, if we need to come back in and they have, really knocked the top off of it, we can adjust our targets. Okay? Okay. Next is mathematics. So the circle progress monitoring for pre-kindergarten, and we do not have pre-kindergarten on every campus, but they did pilot it last year just in reading, but they did not pilot it at all in mathematics. So it really is a brand new assessment. So even more so when we're looking at our kids that are on track, and 87.3% is really great. But we wanted to keep our target at 1 percentage point per year, but again, we'll look at it after our end of year assessments, and if we need to come back to the board and address that, we sure can. Same with kindergarten on the Texas Kia, on track, it was 62.7%, and we are stepping it out to 67% by 2025. And then the TPRI that's new for reading doesn't have a math component. So for this progress measure for first and second graders, we're looking at reaching the mean achievement norm for the MAP or higher for mathematics, and that it will increase from 63.8% to 73%. Now we did step that out by 2 percentage point intervals because this is an assessment that our kids have taken. So, any questions on those?
It seems weird to me that we use TCRI for one and not for the other, but.
And that's just because TPRI is just literacy based. It doesn't have a math component. Yeah. Okay, good question though. Okay, then when we move to the CCMR, that's College Career Military Readiness, we were again looking at how the district performed based on 2019 accountability, because we didn't, we weren't rated last year. So our graduates, we were looking at the 2019 accountability, but it was actually the class of 2018. It trailed behind. And so when we're looking at CCMR, in order for a student to be able to demonstrate that they are college career military ready, they have to meet one of 11 indicators. And they're broken into college ready and then career and military ready. And they really have all 4 years of high school to meet it. But when the TEA is determining our graduates, and if they have met it, they're only looking at annual graduates. But it's always a year behind. So that's a little challenging. We worked with our high school principals to identify these three measures. We want to increase the percentage of our graduates that meet college ready for TSI, and TSI is Texas Success Initiative, from 29.1% to 50%. And the TSI, those are assessments like SAT, AP exams, dual credit, associate degree. So we're wanting to increase that percentage from 29.1 to 50%. The next measure that we identified is that the percent of students that earn an approved industry-based certification, and that will increase from 1% to 15%. And we have stepped that out.
Dr. Wiley, may I interrupt for just one?
Absolutely.
On that first criteria with
Yes.
TSI, because I know it's been the goal of the high school to increase the participation with SAT
Yes.
and all that. Now, if they meet the criteria through SAT, they necessarily would not be for the on the TSI because they already met their a certain score level on the SAT.
Yes, you
And
have
so,
to meet, yes,
okay.
yes, sir, you do.
Okay.
In reading and math, you know, I want to say, and maybe Ms. Green knows this, or some of my counterparts, I want to say 480 on critical reading and 5 something on math. So, but they have to get it for both.
Okay.
Reading and math. But it could be a combination. It could have been reading on SAT, and then it might have been an AP exam for the math. It doesn't have to be in the same exact
Right.
category.
So who at our high school level is super focused on this and making sure that we're keeping track of all that?
Well, that is an outstanding question, and we have identified some staff to do that. And honestly, I will circle back to that when we talk about the PD plans, because just the simple tracking of it is huge. Just really fully understanding all of the indicators, it's not that it's difficult, but it's complicated, and you have to understand the methodology and all of that. So we are getting better and better and better at doing that, and have some good tools to use to help us with that tracking. So we're not having to do it kind of the old-fashioned way with a piece of paper and pen. Great question. And then the third measure for CCMR is the percent of students that complete a coherent sequence of courses aligned to an industry-based certification, and that will increase from 12 to 27%. So again, we looked at our data, we looked at the district data, we looked at the high school data, we looked at the academies data, and just looked to see where we felt like we wanted to focus.
I think to me, the most alarming number we've seen all night is this industry-based certifications. With our location and our partnerships with so many industries and through San Jacinto College, these numbers are quite alarming.
You bet, and
It just hasn't been a focus, and so it's going to be a focus for us. And so it's like anything else, when you start really looking at it and taking time on it,
Yes.
I think those numbers will grow.
absolutely.
We have people that should be counted, but to your point, with all the
And just to reiterate that 1% was our class of 2018.
Right.
And TEA did go through a couple of cycles of identifying courses tied to industry certs, and so we had to make some changes in our course catalog so that our pathways were better aligned, and again, you'll see some points that we've made in the professional development to ensure that our folks really know and that we're,
And in addition to just that, to answer for school districts across the state, it has not always been very, very clear from the agency. And so I think principals will agree with me on that. As it came out, there were some rules and then there were some guidelines and then they changed and then they shifted. And so some of this data, it looks bad or it doesn't look as good as it could be, but we're still trying to learn to get clarification on what it's all about. I think from what I've seen so far and what I've observed, we've got folks that are really monitoring this. Industry-based certification and those kinds of things. It's still relatively a new concept. We've always had kids and we've always had industry around here, but it's not always been that we were focusing on kids getting that industry certification as a graduation requirement. And I can speak to it a little bit because I was a high school principal for a long time. So, but I think this district is actually doing a fairly good job of that. We're just trying to increase our focus
and
on
we'll
it.
have some good data to share, next time we come back. Did you have a question, sir?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I see college, career, industry, but it has military readiness on here and there is absolutely nothing.
So again, there are 11 indicators, and we could have selected military. Military, and really and truly, we're focused on every one of those indicators. So the military ready is enlisting in the armed forces. And we have, in our district improvement plan and our campus improvement plans, efforts to, I don't know, we've had a lot of recruiters coming into our buildings because of COVID, but that is very much a priority for us. It's just not one of the 3 progress measures that's listed here, but it's still very, very important. All 11 of them are important.
Well, I was just curious. It was on there and I don't see anything about it. Coming from special operations a long time ago and talking to the guys that are in there now, they don't have enough qualified candidates because they have focused on this
Right.
instead of some athletic stuff to get them up off the couch and stuff like that. This is great,
Sure.
but you still need boots on the ground also. I was just
Right,
kind of
absolutely.
curious where that was gonna come from.
Well, and
We're gonna say
again,
if we're not gonna do anything about it, take it off.
oh, well, so CCMR, college career military readiness, I mean, that is what our overarching
Yeah.
thing is called. Oh, of course you can. That's okay.
So the reason military's not on here, it's the one that we have least control over. So we try to do the ones that we can actually manipulate more. Military ready, it used to be if students indicated that they were planning on enlisting in the military. It is now they must actually enlist in the military. So they can go through the whole process. We can take them, we can introduce them to military recruiters. They can talk to them, but if by August they haven't enlisted, they're off. And they don't get to, they can't enlist in September and be counted. So you have a deadline in August that they can calculate the state. I believe that's right, isn't it? August is the deadline. And so we have, not that we don't encourage military participation, it's just the one that we have least control of because you have a lot of influences that other peers, you have parents that may or may not encourage them to participate in the military, current political situations. There's a lot of things that we just can't control. And so we try to identify the areas that we can actually influence the most.
So
Make sense?
what I hear y'all saying is there are 11 components, and you're giving us 3 goals from that 11. It doesn't mean that we're not working on the other 8.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes.
These are the ones that we think would make
I think
Yes.
that's what's
the biggest
confusing
impact.
us.
Yeah.
He's thinking that there should be one of those. We don't have any we don't have any percentages on that.
Correct. Yes, yes,
I'm sorry,
yes. ma'am. No.
Dr. Walker, I have
Yes.
a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
In the last probably 3 or 4 years, in attending the vocational fairs that we've had, attending Solution Industry, a number of events, attending CAC, we have a lot of work to do, not just in the district, but there's a whole separate piece to this outside of the district. Because talking to these plant managers on why we've not had programs in the past, And the first thing they say is, we're not really interested, we've tried it, they don't come to work, they don't pass the drug test. I mean, it's as much of a marketing thing on their end as it is what we're doing with our students on the inside. And I'm very surprised that we haven't thought about working it from that end, but it's not gonna be just with kids.
Right, you're right. And I feel like we really put a focus on that I don't know which legislative session it was, but House Bill 5, when the graduation plans changed, and we did make a shift from, for a long time, it was always college ready, college ready, college ready. And then with HB 5, it became a little more where we were looking at careers. And so, but I agree completely with what you're saying. So, yes, please know that, just to reiterate, there are 11 measures. A student must get one in order to get their point for being CCMR, and sometimes they have multiple, but they only have to have one. And these were the three that we identified for this particular plan, even though we focus on all 11. Okay, next for early childhood, that's EC, early childhood professional development. In literacy, we will be focusing on the 5 components of reading instruction and balanced literacy. That includes phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. And then with mathematics, we will focus on the 4-star writing, reporting categories, which include numerical representations and relationships, computations and algebraic relationships, geometry and measurement, and data analysis and financial literacy. And for the college career military readiness, CCMR, kind of what I was saying to Ms. Thompson earlier in response to her question, one of the things we must ensure is that all of our secondary teachers and guidance counselors, that they all understand the criteria that's used in the districts and the campuses' CCMR ratings. So we'll be doing, they know, but maybe not every single secondary teacher knows. And so we need to ensure that even at the very youngest level, at 6th grade, that they know what these students need to be achieving before they graduate. We also want to focus our attention on our CTE teachers and the guidance counselors and ensure that they have training on these industry-based certifications as they relate to the career pathways. I really have to give a shout out to the high school and the academy as they're growing their CTE program. But we are looking very, very diligently at the courses that we offer to ensure that they align with an industry certification. And then we want to also focus our attention with our English language arts teachers and mathematics teachers to ensure that they have training on ways that they can help increase student performance on some of these college-ready assessments. The TSIA, that's the Texas Success Initiative Assessment, which we partner with San Jacinto College to offer that for our high school students. First time they take it, it's free of charge. The SAT, our district does contract with College Board. We do SAT School Day, where all of our juniors have the opportunity to take the SAT free of charge. We encourage ACT, but we do not partner with ACT, and of course AP exams.
I have a quick question on, are we, as a district at any level, participating in the Texas College Bridge Pathway program?
I will tell you that is on my board, and
Okay.
we are learning more about that.
Okay.
There are some, there was a webinar that Ms. Tilley
Yeah.
looked at, but yes, we are very interested in that.
Yeah, I'm kind of learning it myself, and at my own work, we're implementing it for the second semester, and apparently is, the students go through a set curriculum, and
They
if
do.
they pass it, they get a certificate, 90% mastery,
Yes.
and then they're exempt from the TSIA.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
okay.
And we were even looking at kicking that around for our, the college prep. We partner with San Jack, we have used Dana Center curriculum and San Jack for mathematics, and then San Jacinto curriculum for the English course, but we're looking into the
Okay.
bridge for that as well. There is, I don't know that it's a real in-depth application, but we do have to apply, but yes, we're very much interested in that.
Okay, thank you.
Good question, thank you. So next steps, we need to provide you, and we'll provide you with the entire plan to include the campus plan. So what that means is for early childhood literacy and early childhood mathematics, every elementary campus will have a campus plan. For CCMR, the high school, LaPorte High School will have a campus plan, and the academy will have a campus plan. And then we will have professional development. Really within the first year, we want it to be really consistent across the board, and then we may be able to customize that a little more when we get into year 2, year 3, and so forth. Because we do want this to be a living document that is meaningful in our strategic planning. We will initiate a monitoring calendar. We will review, I'm sure we will be reviewing this with you more than annually, but the rules say that they need to be reviewed at least annually at a public meeting, and of course, we would post all of the plans on our district and campus websites. And that is all I have for this evening. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my question might be more directed to Dr. Jackson.
Okay.
But since House Bill 3 is approved and this started going on, every year, whatever type testing we have, you're reporting all statistics to us. Then the next year, the names change, everything, numbers change. But, okay, this is the newest thing, House Bill 3, but what is most new about it is that they have pushed and pushed and pushed that this must be done by the board.
Right.
And I want to know what that looks like. What is their ultimate, what are the ramifications? Why? Because ultimately, I feel like the board has oversight, and we've always been in that position. So, why the push? See what I'm asking?
Yes, and you don't want me to answer that publicly, but I will. I will take a stab. I will take a stab at it. Here's the deal: the commissioner and the agency has said all along that they wanted to hold not only superintendents and school districts, the lay people are responsible for student achievement and accountability. And you've heard of Lone Star governance, and that's one of the new ones out. But this is part of legislation that was passed both in House Bill 5, House Bill 5 and House Bill 3 that is now holding, for the lack of a better word, not only superintendents and principals and teachers responsible for students, but boards. And when I say holding responsible, I don't get the feeling that the agency and the commissioner and legislators felt like there was enough conversations in board meetings about this type of data. We do it at the beginning of the year, we do it at the end of the year, but rarely did we come in the old days, 3 or 4 times a year and really check on this. I'll say to you, just based on what we shared last week and where we are with this global pandemic, I'm telling you, I believe this data will be reviewed and modified several times before there's a new iteration of it at some point. Clearly, because we have given aggressive goals, we didn't try to lowball our school district or our students or our staff. We tried to be aggressive in our plan and saying, here's where we think we can be in 5 years. But, again, we're in a global pandemic where there's just missing kids. There's a lot of things that are happening right now that's going to impact this. If we're honest, and the record will state that I'm talking today, 5 years from now, we will have modified this document. I really believe we will, because there's just so many moving parts. So to answer your question, I think it's just trying to get boards and superintendents and the entire school district talking about student achievement more often, and more prescribed and more certainly specific to some of those issues. College and career and military readiness, that's a big deal. Somebody asked a question earlier about military readiness. 2 years ago, we didn't have a whole lot of direction on it. School districts that went from an F to an A and a B overnight because they used that measure of military readiness. Well, when it came out that was maybe a fudging of the data, they changed all of that data again. And so I'm serious. And so the Houston Chronicle had huge articles about that. And so I think we're going to continue to bring this before you. We're going to continue to have conversations about it, and we're going to be honest with you. If we're not making making the progress, we're going to be honest and say that, and say, here's why we don't believe we're making the progress. But I think it's just another way that boards can, number one, hold me accountable, but we can hold each other accountable to make certain that this community is strong and that students are learning like they need to learn. Okay?
And I think in some of our trainings about it, they spoke specifically about having goals that were measurable, not just say we're going to improve from this
Right.
to this, do the
Correct.
incremental things like you.
And these are more measurable things instead of just saying everybody's going to pass, you know?
But that's not new either.
No,
because-
no.
Because we always have measurable goals. So,
Well, but
thank you
these
for doing that.
incremental every year that we be at this, so we can get to this, so we can get to this, and they all build on each other. I don't remember ever having anything written down like that had those numbers.
Okay.
But I think it's all about us.
Board, does anybody else have any questions for Dr. Wally? Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Wally.
Certainly.
Okay, we move to item 7B, consider and possibly approve the LaPorte Independent School District's Return to Learn Plan. Need a motion?
So Mr. Board President, and congratulations again, Mr. Board President, and members of the board. Last week you heard what we believe to have been a pretty compelling case for our reasons to return to face-to-face learning. Tonight, we appreciate you giving us one more opportunity to hear this information again and for your consideration to decide upon this plan. While it may seem that there is ample time for such a tremendous undertaking, when we return from the Thanksgiving holidays, our students and teachers will have a merely 15 days together before we break again for the winter break. So we are proud of the way that we have been able to locally mitigate the COVID-19 pandemic in our district. And as you look at our COVID-19 dashboard on our website, you'll notice that a number of the infections, that they're low, although one is still too many in all of our opinions, but they have been few, and we have worked hard to be as transparent as humanly possible. I'm going to invite Dr. Watley back up because we realize we are currently with COVID-19, and we are certainly hopeful that new vaccines, holiday breaks will lead to hopefully fewer infections as we move forward upon the new year. Your consideration of this option tonight certainly could give us, the school district personnel and principals and teachers, an advantage on the preparation required to welcome our students back, if that was the decision of the board. We are not alone in this consideration. As you may well know, there are many districts now that are discussing this, whether it be publicly or privately, about the possibility of moving to face-to-face for all students. And so with that, I will yield the floor to Dr. Linda Watley one more time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jackson, and thank you all again for the opportunity to follow up from last week's proposal of our return to learn. As Dr. Jackson said, you did hear compelling testimony from an elementary and a secondary teacher. Some of the takeaways that I thought I might highlight this evening is that They both shared that they started the school year very optimistic with new skills and technology and eagerness, but it has now become a situation where they are feeling very overwhelmed and ineffective, that it's difficult to differentiate for the students that are in person, face-to-face, as well as the virtual students that they are teaching at the same time. We have a concurrent model that we're teaching in right now. Some other things they said is that they felt defeated because the virtual students are struggling to keep up, that the teachers really take pride in the success of their students, and when their students are failing, they're shouldering that burden, and it's very difficult for them emotionally, and it's difficult for the students really academically and emotionally. Our face-to-face students are on occasion feeling neglected because the teachers are distracted, having to go back and forth between the students that are in front of them and their device. But by the same token, they are hopeful that we can welcome all students back in January. Since last week, we have some updated information to share. We actually had an increase in 12 students from last Monday to this Monday, so that's a good thing. Our face-to-face percentage is 76%, and our virtual percentage is 24%. Last week, a week ago today, it was 75-25. We actually have, just in the last week, 47 less virtual students and 59 more face-to-face students. And this fourth bullet, the current virtual failures, which are based on last grading period, this is the same data that you got last week. 40% of our secondary students at the end of the second 6 weeks, were failing one or more classes, and 24% of our elementary students were failing one or more courses based on their second 9 weeks. And I do have the data you requested, Mr. Yonda. This same exact time last year, the second 6 weeks for secondary failure rate was 14%. And the elementary first 9 weeks was 9%. You also heard last week from Mrs. Anderson. She talked about the district students that are medically fragile or have some type of underlying health condition, and she shared that 71% of those students are currently attending in-person learning. So what we shared last week is that we do want to account for students and families that have a documented health condition or they are medically fragile. So we're not saying we're wanting to completely eliminate virtual, but we would have a process by which to process that. We will contact the parents who responded to a district questionnaire saying that they have a medically fragile student, but we won't just depend on that questionnaire. We will also reach out to students that we know have, or families that have documented underlying health conditions. We have an application that we would ask the families to complete, and it does require a medical doctor to indicate that there is an underlying health condition. And as Dr. Jackson mentioned just a moment ago, when we get back from Thanksgiving, we have 15 days before we break for Christmas and then the holiday break, and then students report back, or the second semester starts on January 6th. So in order to process the applications, we would be asking for a deadline of December 4th, have committee review, and then decision rendering by December 11th, we would notify via email. And the reason why we had said email is that we felt like we could get that out faster than putting a letter in the mail. And then if parents wanted to appeal that decision, we would follow our local policy, our F&G local policy. But again, I just must say that we so appreciate your looking into this consideration for our return to learn. And that's really all I have as a follow-up, but we'll be happy to stand for questions or any of my team.
Well, my obvious question, I need a little more information, about where you're going with the people who would apply for the underlying medical condition. Are we talking about a small group that would remain virtual? Are we targeting some teachers to teach those? I mean, what are we giving them the opportunity to do?
Well, what would we, the ultimate goal is to relieve the teachers from having to teach online and face-to-face at the same time. So once we know who would qualify with a documented health condition, then we start master scheduling. You know, we look for who could teach just a virtual
Virtual.
class or just a
So
face-to-face
we would
class.
accommodate.
We would accommodate.
That is what, I mean,
That's
that
our
is
goal.
what our goal is, you know?
We need numbers first.
We
Right.
would have to have the numbers
And,
first.
and,
yes,
and,
sir.
and I appreciate you taking some time, and I appreciate the question,
Yeah.
because what we set the committee up, because you got to hear these concerns, because what we don't want to do, and I think I said this last week, is for that option to be a default option. Does that make sense? If we're trying to really bring people back, we don't want everybody to use a default option, and so we still have, 2,000 folks that are virtual. We realize there are some students that have other issues in the home that we have to address that, right? But we also realize we don't want kids, our families to just take advantage of that, and then, we're no better off than we were, in the spring.
Exactly. So,
So in the process, you mentioned something, would require doctor evaluation paperwork.
right, so our medical application, medical exemption application does have a place where a doctor would sign off that says, Linda Wadley's child
Yeah, this person is
has,
susceptible, and we don't need to, yeah.
would be susceptible, immune system, whatever it might be.
Go on, Cindy.
Well, I was just gonna back her up as to why we do this, because, virtually learning is the most restrictive environment for our kids, and we wanna make sure that their physician also feels that it's in the child's best interest to remain at home and not be back, with and meeting their social and emotional needs as well as their academic. So, and the surrounding school districts are doing that as well.
And are we strictly on the medical evaluation as far as the student's concerned? If the student is living, let's say, the grandmother is the guardian, and the grandmother has underlying health issues, and is wise keeping
Yes,
that
sir.
student and child,
That would go before the committee.
committee as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Good question.
But again, we don't want somebody to move with grandparents over the weekend and say, well,
Right.
this is the reason why I don't want to come back.
Right.
So, and as a board, you hear from the public, and that's your role part, it's to hear from the community. We just want to have some measures in place to where it's not something that people are just taking advantage of. And lest I get on my soapbox again, this cannot just be considered a gap year for kids that just refuse to wake up in the morning. And it's not for everybody that's the case,
Right.
but there are some kids, parents say, Dr. Jackson, if you want them in school, you come to the house and wake them up.
Oh, I don't. Oh.
I got an amen over there, okay? So we're just trying to
Right.
do this fair and square and be transparent about it.
Absolutely.
And, if this measure were to be passed by the board, we, like everything, we will plan to continue to update the board as we go. Here are numbers, here's what we look like, here's what's going on, those kinds of things. Because I think it's only fair for us to share with the community what we're trying to do. right? We're not trying to do this under a bushel or something. We're trying to do what most districts in this state are trying to do now, is to get kids back so that we can help them. So those same progress measures that we just talked about, we can reach those goals in the next 5 years. But if we don't get everybody back, those kinds of goals are going to be really, really hard to achieve because we don't even have all of our kids.
Okay.
That's
Board,
all I have, unless you all have any other questions.
board, do y'all have any questions? Okay, I guess we'll need a motion. Okay, Ms. Green, need a second?
Second.
Mr. Wallace, and we'll go through the roll call. And Ms. Wheeler, how would you vote? Okay, we have a yes. Mr. Shoppy?
Yes.
We have a yes. Ms. Green?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Murdoch?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm a yes as well, so that is unanimous.
Look at your principals out there.
Okay, item 8, 9, and 10 regarding closed meeting that we're not having to go to. So we're going to go to item 11. I hope I'm not out of line to say wishing each and every one of y'all a very restful, well-deserved Thanksgiving vacation week. Okay, thank y'all so much, and we're adjourning at 6:06.